Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back for video number 2. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, and it's 11:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's just pick right up from where I left off, and let's go do that now. All right, so we are picking up exactly where I left off in the last video, and we are going to be looking at this. All right, now it says Dems suddenly care about Barron shame President Trump for not taking him to World Series game where they booed him. Democrats are up in arms that Trump didn't bring Barron to a World Series game so he could hear them boo his father. And by the way, I'd like to say this about that booing of President Trump. People that were there have a very different recollection of what happened, I guess would be the proper term. They're saying, and what I've read is what they did on the news is they took the audio of the people booing and they boosted it so it sounded like there were more people booing than were cheering, and that was certainly not the case. Yes, there were some people booing, but they amplified that to make it more, to sound worse than it was. Anyway, and I have heard from people that were there that said, actually, the people cheering, drowned out the people that were booing. So it really was not represented properly on the news, but we wouldn't expect it to be, would we? All right, says Democrats suddenly have a deep care for young Barron Trump, who they ruthlessly attack every chance they get. Sunday night, however, liberals were acting like Child Protective Services, looking out for welfare for some poor abused child. Several Trump family haters took to Twitter where they shamed President Trump for not taking Barron to the baseball game. Gee, maybe he didn't want to go, for crying out loud. Yeah, and the other thing, if I was President Trump, I wouldn't be taking my son anywhere like out in the open like that. I just wouldn't, because, well, I guess Democrats are up in arms that Trump didn't bring Barron to the World Series game so he could hear them boo his father. These people are so mentally deranged they can't even keep their damn hate story straight. A father not taking his son to a baseball game, let alone a World Series game, is perhaps the worst indictment of a family man I've ever heard. I have a feeling Trump could have gotten Barron a ticket if he got tickets for Scalise and Gates. Absolutely. Absolutely, he could have gotten Barron tickets. If Barron was like, I really want to go, Dad, I think, possibly he would have taken him, but possibly not because of the risk to his safety. And he has been targeted before, and people have said absolutely horrific things that they wanted done to him. So, yeah, I would be protective as a father or a mother. So, anyway, Rob Anderson for Louisiana, a father not taking his son to a baseball game, let alone a World Series game, is perhaps the worst indictment. Okay, well, we just read that. We didn't have any money growing up, but my dad still took me to every sporting event he could afford. Donald Trump has unlimited resources, yet he couldn't even take Barron with him to the baseball game. This is ridiculous. It's just made up, horse crap. Because really, that's ridiculous. We don't even know that Barron is into sports at all. He could be into computers. He could be into anything. But my brother wasn't into sports. He wasn't like watching the football game and all that stuff. He just wasn't into it. He was into computers and things like that. So not because, having a penis doesn't mean that automatically you like sports. Doesn't work that way. I couldn't imagine going to a World Series game without my son. Donald Trump is a shitty person, a shitty father, and deserved every boo he got last night. This is unbelievable. Maybe it's the dad in me, but Trump goes to the World Series and doesn't take Barron. That's not cool. Maybe he should trust him around Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, and Lindsey Graham, or maybe he couldn't trust him around Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz. That's really a low blow. That's seriously a very, very low blow. And then Trump even brought his traveling butt wipe, Matt Gaetz, to the game. He brought everybody but his 13-year-old son. What father doesn't bring his teenage son to a World Series game? A father whose son doesn't want to be seen around him? Maybe. I bet Barron knows his dad's a bum. This is like absolutely abuse. I've never seen a president or anyone in authority treated this badly ever, and I hope I never do again. It's unexcusable, but it's what we've come to expect, isn't it? And that is really sad. All right, now I'm going to skip this for the next one because I'll save that for one where it's more in line with the other things. I don't want to pull us off of course here. ISIS leader al-Baghdadi's. Now, this is like, okay, talk about strange news. Imagine me reading this when I woke up this morning. Seriously, I was going, what? What did I just read? ISIS leader al-Baghdadi's underwear stolen by Kurdish spy for DNA test before raid, official says. Ew. Wow. So they steal his underwear and test the crud in it before the raid so that they know it's him when they get him. Ew. Okay, I know they have to do what they have to do, but I bet you that guy was carrying the underwear like this. I would be. I'm just saying, because I would think that an ISIS leader would have a lot of skid marks in there. Okay, I'm way out of line. But I'm just saying. Before the U.S. military positively identifies the headless body of the world's most wanted terrorist killed in a daring raid, a Kurdish spy slipped into Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's compound and stole his underwear to confirm the long-sought ISIS leader's identity through DNA, a Kurdish official said. Syrian Democratic Forces senior advisor Polat Khan said Monday that the Kurdish-led forces' own sources tracked al-Baghdadi to Idlib, Syria, before beginning to work with the CIA to keep tabs on the terror leader. He said al-Baghdadi was known to move often and was soon expected to change locations. Before Baghdadi could move, a Kurdish undercover operative was able to reach him and retrieve his self-styled caliph's underwear, Khan said. Through a DNA test, he said they were able to confirm 100% that the person of interest was al-Baghdadi. So, okay, this Kurdish undercover operative was able to reach him and retrieve his underwear. Now, okay, if I'm the head of ISIS, and I'm not, nor could I ever be, nor would I want to be. But if I was al-Baghdadi and this guy reaches him and says, hey, can I have a pair of your underwear? I'm thinking that the guy's not stupid enough to just, reach into his drawers and give him a pair of underwear or take off the underwear that he's wearing, unless I can imagine all sorts of scenarios in my head, but none of them are good. I mean, seriously. This guy's got to be absolutely paranoid because he knows there's lots of people out after him. And I just can't see him just handing over his underwear. Like, call me crazy. Some have, but I just can't see it. I mean, if somebody that I didn't know contacted me and said, can I have your underwear? I would be like, okay, you need help. Really, you need help. Anyway, this from Polat Khan. One of our sources was able to reach the house where al-Baghdadi was hiding. Al-Baghdadi changed his places of residence very often. He was about to move to a new place in Jarablus. Okay, so that is that. That's their story. I guess they're sticking to it. I don't believe it. I don't. Either they had it prior, or I just don't, unless there's something they're just not saying. But I don't understand how somebody could just walk into that house or knock. Hi, you don't know me, but I'd like your underwear. Can't see that happening. Just saying. All intelligence and access to al-Baghdadi, as well as the identification of his place, were the result of our own work, Khan wrote. Our intelligence source was involved in sending coordinates, directing the airdrop, participating in, and making the operation a success until the last minute. Al-Baghdadi's informant was inside compound at the time of the raid, Kurdish general tells Fox News. In announcing al-Baghdadi's death, President Trump said the Kurds provided helpful information but didn't provide a military role at all. While U.S. officials have not confirmed Khan's account, General Mazloum Abdi, the SDF commander, had told Fox News on Monday that the Kurdish force had an informant inside the compound at the time of the raid. Okay, so if the informant was inside the compound at the time of the raid, then I can perhaps see that. But, you know, how do you get somebody's underwear without them knowing? I'm just saying. The agent had told them about the tunnels under the compound, how many people were with al-Baghdadi, and about his planned move. Al-Baghdadi was killed after he fled down a dead-end tunnel with 3 children, where he was found whimpering and trapped, and detonated a suicide vest. Why would you run into a tunnel that has a dead end? Like, hello. So al-Baghdadi's head remained intact following the blast. That's way too much information. Allowing commandos to use biometrics, specifically facial recognition, to immediately identify him. Trump said they had also brought along samples of al-Baghdadi's DNA to verify his identity, with an on-site test that produced positive results in only 15 minutes. People look at destroyed houses near the village of Berisha in Idlib province, Syria, Sunday, after an operation by the U.S. military which targeted Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So that is what is left of his house. Yeah. It was unclear what kind of device was used to positively identify al-Baghdadi, but over the past several years, the military has been developing technology for portable DNA labs that process results quickly. The technicians were able to take substantial pieces of al-Baghdadi's remains from the site, Trump said. Ew. I know they have to, but I'm just saying. On Monday, Army General Mark A. Miley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that al-Baghdadi's remains were disposed of appropriately in accordance with the law of armed conflict, but did not elaborate. A source has told Fox News he was buried at sea, similar to al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, who was killed in 2011. No, I don't believe it. I think he was killed. I think he died naturally of Marfan disease. That's just me. All right. And while it remains unclear who exactly will take over the terrorist organization, Trump confirmed on Tuesday that al-Baghdadi's #1 replacement was killed by American troops without naming the target. A senior State Department official has confirmed to Fox News on Monday the death of ISIS spokesman Abu Hassan al-Muhajir, who was considered al-Baghdadi's right-hand man. The void in leadership is the latest significant setback for the terror group after having already lost vast stretches of its physical caliphate that stretched across parts of Syria and Iraq. So that is a very interesting. Now, I just find the underwear thing a little bit. Well, not only is it unpleasant, it's unlikely, but who knows? Truth is stranger than fiction, and it really is. But all right, I gotta get that picture out of my head, man. I need bleach for my mind. Okay, let's go on now. Bleach, where is it when you need it? All right, I'm gonna have to use the Acme Cat Be Gone, and it worked. Okay, so let's go on now. Underwear. Okay, and this from Tom Fitton. Developing as new IG report confirms massive security violations. Hillary Clinton's lawyer battle Judicial Watch in federal court to derail effort to question her under oath on emails and Benghazi. New emails confirm Clinton email Benghazi cover-up. Well, we knew that already, but the fact that we have the emails, makes me especially happy. Yeah, I don't think anybody was thinking that there wasn't a cover-up, but I'm glad that we have the emails and that they confirm such. And Tom Fitton says here, giant Judicial Watch update. Did Mueller perjure himself? Probably. And will Hillary Clinton have to testify about emails and Benghazi? Maybe. It is a coup against Donald Trump. Yes. What about Biden scandal? On it. Huge Judicial Watch update. So Judicial Watch is doing fantastic work. Unbelievable. And we would not be as far along as we are without Judicial Watch, because they stay on it. They really do. The work that they do is, I don't know, it's irreplaceable. I mean, I don't know of anyone else that's doing this kind of work, and it's phenomenal. All right, now let's go to this. You know why? Because we can, and we will, and we are. All right, it says earlier today, Schiff directed the witness not to answer questions from Republican members he didn't want answered. Schiff likes to claim this process is fair, yet he chooses all the witnesses and is now literally writing their scripts. This is beyond rigged. It's outrageous. Oh, well, absolutely it is. But let's listen to what he has to say.
Adam Schiff, among many things, has been trying to claim that this is a fair process by saying that Republicans are allowed to ask questions. Now, he gets to choose all the witnesses, and him and himself only, which means it's not a fair process on the face. But even his claim now that Republicans can ask questions has been undermined, because now he's directing witnesses not to answer questions that he doesn't want the witness to answer if they're asked by Republicans. He's not cut off one Democrat. He's not interrupted one Democrat and told a witness not to answer Democrat members' questions. But today he started telling the witness not to answer questions by certain Republicans. That reeks. And by the way, if you want to talk about a Soviet-style process, again, that might be what they do in the Soviet Union, not in the United States of America. We can't stand for this. The American people are being denied equal justice. Adam Schiff.
So it's just starting over again. So I wanted to play that for you, and there's more. You know why? Because there's always more. Now, this is what I was alluding to in the last video, in something I said about the cable being found, and here it is. Short thread. Allegedly, military intelligence has communicated that cables were found from the U.S. State Department at the Baghdadi raid location. A diplomatic cable, also known as a diplomatic telegram or embassy cable, is a confidential text message. I don't know. A diplomatic telegram or embassy cable is a confidential text messages. So they were found from the U.S. State Department at the Baghdadi raid location. So these would be texts, confidential texts between al-Baghdadi and the State Department. Uh-oh. Yeah. Uh-oh. 2, a diplomatic cable is a type of dispatch. Other dispatches may be sent as physical documents in a diplomatic bag. Where am I? In a diplomatic bag. Diplomatic cables are protected by the most elaborate security precautions to prevent unfettered access by the public and unauthorized interception by foreign governments. They are always encrypted, frequently by unbreakable one-time pad ciphers using key material distributed using diplomatic couriers. Why does the State Department still send cables? It's a combination of factors, including record-keeping, secrecy, and career advancement. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but why would there be diplomatic cables in the al-Baghdadi's residence? I'm just wondering. Cables allow the State Department to keep a permanent record of diplomatic efforts. These documents are typically declassified after 25 years. Diplomatic cables include detailed routing information indicating who should be given access to them. So there you go. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, now let's go back, see what else we have, because there's more. There's always, always more. Now, here are some tweets from Trump. Nervous Nancy Pelosi is doing everything possible to destroy the Republican Party. Our polls show that it is going to be just the opposite. The do-nothing Dems will lose many seats in 2020. They have a death wish led by a corrupt politician, Adam Schiff. Over in Europe and Japan, they have negative rates. They get paid to borrow money. Don't we have to follow our competitors? Yes, we do. The Fed doesn't have a clue. We have unlimited potential only held back by the Federal Reserve, but we are winning anyway. We are being held back by the Federal Reserve and have been for a very long time. And it would be wonderful if they could do away with the Fed, but I don't know how that can happen. Anyway, consumer confidence number, very good. Housing sales in September up nicely. Economy rocks. Okay, I don't know where I don't know what I got here. I didn't mean to get this part of it. Justin Bieber. Yeah, I wasn't meaning to get that. Donald Trump, a new book just out, The Plot Against the President, the true story of how Congressman Devin Nunes uncovered the biggest political scandal in U.S. history, shows very bad and corrupt people on the other side. Check it out. I need to get rid of that Justin Bieber stuff. Okay, now, where am I? Right here. Laura Ingraham. When the left loses power, their answer is always to limit speech. It never works. And she is replying to Bloomberg, who stated, Google, Facebook, and Twitter need to work harder to combat disinformation on their platforms, the EU says. Oh, disinformation in this case means truth. Yeah. It's only disinformation if it goes against their narrative. You see what I'm saying? If you say anything that they don't approve of, well, that's disinformation. That's fake. So what they call fake news is really usually real news. And what most people call real news is really fake news. It's an upside down world. Black is white. White is black. Good is evil. Evil's good. We're living in an upside down world. And you know, scripture said exactly that in the end days, men will call good evil and evil good. Well, isn't that where we're at? That's exactly where we're at. Okay, how many more never-Trumpers will be allowed to testify about a perfectly appropriate phone call when all anyone has to do is read the transcript? I knew people were listening in on the call. Why would I say something inappropriate? Which is fine with me, but why so many? The do-nothing Democrats are working hard to make everyone forget the best economy ever, the monumental weekend raid, tax cuts, the rebuilding of our military, etc. The impeachment hoax is a disgrace. Read the transcript. Donald Trump, where's the whistleblower? Just read the transcript. Everything else is made up garbage by Shifty Schiff and the never-Trumpers. And this by Mark Meadows. While Democrats continue to leak false narratives, here's what the actual witness interviews would show you. The actual witness interviews that we do not have access to, nor does a lot of, the Republicans don't even have access to it. So what is, but if we were able to have access, this is what they would show. No aid was ever traded for any political investigation. We know that. Ukraine aid continued to flow without new investigations. There is zero basis for impeachment. And Mark Meadows, again, House Democrats now suddenly saying they'll vote on an impeachment resolution to ensure transparency is rich, considering they've spent weeks conducting interviews in secret, leaking their own talking points while locking down any and all information that benefits the president. And this from Representative Doug Lamborn. Schiff-style impeachment. Dems hide testimony behind secured doors and leak info vital to their false narrative, driving the lies against real Donald Trump. As the radical left moves towards impeachment, they attempt to overturn the will of the American voters in total secrecy. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It won't. Too many of us are awake now, including, I think even some of the Democrats are waking up, because I heard about one Democrat, I may have clipped it out here, that has said, no, I'm going to vote no on impeachment. And I can't remember his name. It wasn't familiar to me. So anyway, and okay, Pelosi says House will vote. We already know that, so I'm not going to get into that. This by Mark Meadows. We've just learned House Democrats are moving the public impeachment hearings to the Intelligence Committee, taking it out of the normal jurisdiction, Judiciary Committee, cutting out GOP members who have spent the majority of time questioning witnesses till now. This is a sham. And Representative Doug Collins, thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for finally acknowledging the fact that you attempted to deceive the American people into thinking you were conducting a fair impeachment inquiry. Just one problem. It's impossible to undo 35 days of Representative Adam Schiff's secrecy, lies, and innuendo. Well, that's the truth. And I'm going to read this first, and then we're going to go back up to here. Lee Zeldin says, Mark is 100% spot on here. Ukraine didn't even know there was a hold on aid until just before it was released. Schiff may be trying hard to write the world's greatest parody, but it's still just a parody. And he is responding to Mark Meadows, who said, while Democrats continue to leak false narratives, here's what the actual witness interviews would show you, and we've already gone over that, so I won't read it again. All right, let's look at this. No, really, let's. Yeah, he says, I'm happy that House Democrats finally decided to hold a vote to open up a formal impeachment inquisition of Donald Trump. The problem they still face is they've tainted the process in a way that has divided the country like no time in the last 100 or so years. So let's listen to what he says here.
On his 5th congressional district, I am happy that House Democrat leadership has finally decided to take a formal vote on whether to open an impeachment inquiry. The problem that they face, of course, is that they've tainted the process. They've tainted the process in a way that has divided this country like no time in the past 100 and some odd years. And they've done it because they don't like President Trump, and so they've done it on process. They've had closed-door hearings. They've withheld transcripts, and they've prevented you, me, and the media, and all of America, frankly, from getting in to see what these witnesses are like, whether they're credible, whether they're truthful. And so now they're going to bring us into some kind of additional inquiry. They've said they're going to formalize it. That's good. We just simply don't know how that's going to look or how it's going to be constructed. Normally this would go through the Judiciary Committee. Normally they'd be open hearings all the way through. We'll see how they do. And maybe they can rehabilitate their process. But the bottom line is the process has been stinky. And the substance has also been bad because they've shifted everything from claims of extortion to campaign finance violations to Russian collusion. Now it's quid pro quo. And the bottom line is they know that there's nothing substantive there to impeach this president on. But they're so deluded, you can hear Adam Schiff, you can hear Eric Swalwell, who sits on those committees, still say, even though the guy they said they trusted was Mueller, and Mueller said there was no collusion, they will tell you that there's still evidence of Russian collusion. And so what this gets to is a continuation of a Soviet-style impeachment inquiry where the outcome is predetermined, and they've held it behind closed doors, and they've leaked things that are beneficial to their narrative. So let's stay tuned. I'll keep you posted on what's happening.
Yeah, that's very well stated, and nothing that we don't know, but anyway, let's go on here. Now, looky here. No, really, look. First, let's go up. Okay, did I read that? No, I didn't. Hang on. Let's do this first. Lee Zeldin, Schiff's not a magician. Taylor's second, third, and fourth hand claims don't become first hand just because this slippery fella says so. Also, there's a little problem with that pesky inconvenient reality called the other 99% of the story. Schiff's relying on Americans to be idiots. They aren't. And that in response to Chad Pergram, Schiff on House impeachment process vote, the American people will hear firsthand about the president's misconduct. So, yeah, this is well said by Lee Zeldin. There's that little inconvenient reality called the other 99% of the story. And we're getting the 1% that is, you can isolate it from everything else and make Trump look bad. And then he leaks it to get that out, to poison everybody's opinion of President Trump. It's unbelievable. All right, let's go down to here. This from Turd Ferguson. Well, look who had their photo taken with George Soros' son. This is Alex Soros. Share the heck out of this, please. Help me make this go viral. Well, I have. And, it's interesting. This Alex Soros tends to show up in very interesting places. He and Justin Trudeau are good friends as well. And I know he is good friends with Obama as well. So, yeah, interesting. Okay, let's look at a cat hair. Let's look at this, which is not surprising, seeing as I have two cats. It's just not surprising at all. Okay, George Soros on lifelong funding of left-wing causes. Tide has turned against me. Well, let's hope so. That's good news. That's good news, George Soros. The tide's turning in against you, and you recognize it. Good for you. Billionaire George Soros, who has spent his fortune promoting left-wing politicians, media, and organizations, said over the weekend that he hasn't failed in his lifelong quest to put socialism in place in the United States, but has been impeded by his opposition, including President Donald Trump. So, if you ever doubted that President Donald Trump is all that's standing between the U.S. and socialism, well, you've got it right from George Soros himself. Between the election of President Trump and Britain's ongoing debate over Brexit, the billionaire philanthropist George Soros recognizes that populism is on the rise and that his brand of liberal democracy is faltering, said Michael Martin, host of All Things Considered on taxpayer-funded National Public Radio. Soros also has supported NPR, including $1.8 million given to the media outlet in 2011. When I got involved in what I call political philanthropy some 40 years ago, the open society idea was on the ascent. Closed societies were opening up, Soros said, and now open societies are on the defensive and dictatorships are on the rise. Well, I don't agree with that, but I have to admit that the tide has turned against me, but I don't think that I have failed, Soros said. No, if your goal in life was to become, a huge idiot, no, you haven't failed at all. If your goal in life was to become a mad megalomaniac, then no, you haven't failed at all. Anyway, NPR portrayed Soros as a benign philanthropist who wants to promote democracy. That includes more than $32 billion in giving to his own international network of grant makers, the Open Society Foundation, which has worked to promote democracy in some 120 nations, Martin said. Yeah, democracy, right. That's what it's promoting. Right. Okay, sure, let's go with that. Also, among his beneficiaries were presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton, who got a $25,100 donation from Soros for her 2016 campaign. The interview was to promote Soros' new book in defense of open society that compiles a selection of his often worrisome essays in which Soros muses on what he views as modern threats to democratic societies, including social media and artificial intelligence, particularly when used by authoritarian regimes to manipulate the public. Oh, and he doesn't manipulate the public, does he? No. Soros, 89, said his priority now is fighting Trump's alleged threat to the 2020 election. You may not live long enough to see the 2020 election, Soros. Now, I don't know anything, but he's 89. You know, just saying, he's no spring chicken. He's not going to be around forever. My foundation, and I'm personally very much engaged in fighting voter suppression. Yeah, voter suppression. Trying to get a proper census and things like that will lead to a fair election, because those conditions are also endangered by the current president, Soros said. Soros stopped short of endorsing 2020 presidential candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren, but said she is the clear-cut person to beat. There you go. Elizabeth Warren. That's the best they have. I'm just saying. It's the best they have. I'm not intimating anything. I'm just saying that's the best they have. Yeah, the best. Wow. All right, let's go on. I mean, I didn't say that Elizabeth Warren is a bad choice, but she's a bad choice. Okay, let's look at this. I think you'll find this interesting. If you don't, I don't know. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I hope you find it interesting. UN takes over Utah taxpayer-funded venue, claims it's international territory. Now, I think I commented on this a few days ago, but I didn't have all the information. And shuts down journalists. The yoking of the American people is now a reality. The beast is bullying this country's people. The United Nations is testing the waters, and there is very little resistance. Bible prophecy is being fulfilled in real time. Be prepared for the Antichrist to come on the scene. Well, that is true. In the first United Nations conference outside New York City in the United States of America, the UN took over Salt Palace in Salt Lake City, Utah, and claimed it was international territory. In the process, they were shutting down a journalist's right to video. On August 26, 27, 28 of 2019, the United Nations procured the venue of Salt Palace in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, for a conference. The Utah State Legislature provided $650,000 for the conference. However, as a journalist attempted to video the conference, specifically one of the security personnel, who is clearly a foreigner, she was told she didn't have permission to video the woman's face, and that Salt Palace was to video the woman's face, and that Salt Palace was designated international territory. Take a look at this report from Defending Utah. In fact, this was referenced. This was referred to not as Salt Palace, but as a compound. The UN says they took over the building. The UN stated that the taxpayer-funded Salt Palace was now international territory, where U.S. rights don't apply. How is that possible on U.S. soil? Please tell me that. The UN stated that the United States was outside the doors of the Salt Palace. The UN, who at best should have been a guest of Salt Lake, instead acted like an invader and denied a U.S. citizen their First Amendment rights. And this is the video.
Is it okay you turn off the camera and then speak?
Oh, turn off the camera?
Yeah.
Do I not have a right to have the camera?
I'm not giving you permission to check my face. So.
Okay, are you a public servant
I'm a
or?
United Nations Security Officer.
Okay. This is my city, and so I have a right to film
This is United Nations compound?
on a United Nations compound?
Yes.
This is a compound?
Yeah. Since Sunday evening, we took over this compound. This is international territory. When you step outside, it's US. Here is international territory. This is UN compound.
The United Nations claims to be the champion of your human rights. Here they are boasting about how they love the freedom of the press. But notice that in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, they claim the power to deny you any of your rights at their discretion if it doesn't fit their agenda. There were thousands of cameras filming the United Nations that day. Activists, journalists, and citizens. But as soon as their security saw that one activist
was speaking against the UN's agenda, she was targeted, just like the UN's Declaration on Human Rights says that they have a loophole for. Let's recap what you just saw. The UN set up a compound in the middle of Salt Lake City. The UN says they took over the building. The UN stated that the taxpayer-funded Salt Lake Palace was now international territory where U.S. rights don't apply. The UN stated that the United States was outside the doors of the Salt Palace. The UN, who at best should have been a guest of Salt Lake, instead acted like an invader and denied a U.S. citizen their First Amendment rights. Should the United Nations be allowed to simply claim territory in the middle of the United States and deny any U.S. citizen any of their inalienable rights? The evidence is clear that the United Nations claims of defending human rights is a complete farce. They have demonstrated their intent to rule, along with their complete lack of respect for our own citizens, for all to see, right here on our own soil. That's not all. This has all been brought to you by your fellow elected leaders and other prominent Utah officials. The Utah legislature actually paid for them to come here and defended this international compound with your tax dollars. The mayor of Salt Lake City welcomed them with open arms, and the executives of Utah Valley University invited them here shortly after they officially signed up to promote the UN's agenda through the university. Do you know that the United Nations is already writing and passing laws that the state of Utah and Utah's cities are putting into law on behalf of the UN? If you're upset that the Utah legislature and the city of Salt Lake invited this organization to come and trample on your rights, please go right now to UnitedNationsUtah.com and sign the petition, and then share this video on all of your social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more bombshell reports about the United Nations in Utah and what you can do to take back your local government.
So if you are living in Utah, defendingutah.org, you might want to check this out and see what else is going on, because that is alarming. All right, according to Defending Utah, during the conference pushing the UN's anti-family, anti-property rights, anti-American Agenda 2030, journalists covering the event were confronted by UN officers. I spoke with Defending Utah co-founder Ben McClintock via phone, and he told me that in addition to the $650,000 the state legislature provided, Salt Lake City chipped in another $100,000 or so for the event. Excuse me. So why is Utah allowing such tyranny in the middle of an American city? Sorry, I just didn't want to start coughing. Now we're okay. Why is the UN, an entity that claims it's for human rights unless they deem it otherwise, telling journalists they can't video in an American city? Defending Utah has also set up a petition page at UnitedNationsUtah.com. That is UnitedNationsUtah.com. And they also provide the following information. The UN is convening its 68th Annual Civil Society Conference in Salt Lake City to further the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. More on Agenda 2030 below. The UN wants to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable by 2030. Indoctrination in the name of inclusivity, climate change, peace, economic opportunity for our youth, and the development of infrastructure and technology. The reality, all the while they are destroying the environment, building a big brother, total surveillance state, creating worldwide conflict, and erasing human rights. The UN requested $755,000 from the Utah legislature as enhancement for the event. The legislature didn't pay the full amount, but they did cough up $650,000. Excuse me. After this, I will stop because my voice is going. Jackie Biskupski Salt Lake City mayor, I can think of no better time and no better place than Salt Lake City for the United Nations to re-emphasize and reintroduce its vision, mission, and values to the American people. Okay, you know, I may touch on this tomorrow, but I think I'm going to have to sign off for now because I'm losing my voice and I don't want you to have to listen to this because that's just not pleasant for anyone. So I'm going to end it there, and I will be back tomorrow, and I will bring you more on this and as well as the other breaking news. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And you guys stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. Good night.